One man is facing several felony charges after a fight at an apartment complex 5 days ago in Fargo. Officers responded to the apartment around 10:30 p.m. Friday night, and a man says that the suspect, Terrence Lee Stevens Jr., punched him in the face, so the victim then punched Stevens back. That's when the victim and two other witnesses say that Stevens went into his apartment and came back with two large knives. Now, the first officer on scene says that he saw Stevens carrying a large knife in each hand. When the officer told him to stop, he says that Stevens continued into an apartment. Court documents say that Stevens prevented arrest and also allegedly threatened to kill one of the officers and his family. Stevens is charged with 2 counts of terrorizing with a dangerous weapon, 1 count of terrorizing, and 1 count of simple assault.